then there was a 11-year-old female. There was a struggle, and then I pushed her to the ground to get the phone from her, and then I proceeded to take my pants off, and then I proceeded to remove her pants and underwear, and then from there I got up and I grabbed her and my arm was around her, and then I took her to the kitchen where I then tried to stuff her in the dishwasher, several attempts to stuff her in the dishwasher. And after that, there was a broom closet where I tried to stuff her in there, to put her in the broom closet. Several attempts to do that, and then from there was stairs leading to the basement, which I took her down to the basement, and
you heard correctly. And you know, he was sentenced to 55 years in prison, found guilty by a jury of his peers and a judge. A judge thought the crime was so vicious that he was sentenced to 55 years. His full term date is 2067. Yet just 13 years into that sentence, he is here up for parole. Now, what might be extra disturbing about this case is that he admits in this parole hearing that he has 18 other juvenile victims. 18 victims that he was never charged, prosecuted for. But he admits it in this parole hearing. Now, we are going to hear from the victim's mother. I should say the survivor's mother, because she did fight back for her life. She saved herself from this monster. Now let's see what the Iowa Parole Board, in all their wisdom, will do to protect the great community of Iowa.
And the recommendation is still the same, paroling too?
Correct.
Court release?
Correct.
Okay. Colleagues, do you have any questions?
I don't.
What's her preferred first name?
May, let me look it up real quick. I think it's May Ellen or something, but
We can ask too.
Yeah, I have it. I just have to find it. May Ember.
Thank you.
Okay, you can go ahead and bring in Miss General.
Okay. Take that blue chair and put it like right here. I'll move this around, okay? Sure. Yeah, wherever you feel comfortable that you can see them and hear them and stuff. Yep, okay. And then I'll flip this over. Let me know if you can't hear them and I need to turn it up, okay? All right, go ahead.
Good morning.
turn them up a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah.
If you want to come a little closer, you can. Okay, try now.
Can you hear me? Good morning. Can you hear me? Good. Please state your full name and your state number.
Mathew Roland Jandrew, 6288256.
Okay. All right. So just take a deep breath, and I want you to go back to that day of the crime. What was going on that day? What happened during the crime? We need that description. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. That day I was using substances, as in alcohol and marijuana, and I had gone to a cafe, and a gas station cafe where I'd broken into, and I had stolen some items, like I don't know what they were, like cookies or something. I had stolen from there, and then from there I left there, and then I proceeded like down the street or across the street and then down the way, which led me to a van, which I had broken into, and I had taken like a purse or something, and from there, I had started the van and like backed it out in the middle of the road, and then left it there with the door ajar, and then I had proceeded to the first residence that I went to, which I went to the back door, which I then was kicking and punching, trying to break into the house. And then after several minutes of that, I left there, and then I proceeded to the second residence where I had broken into, and there was a 11-year-old female, which I then proceeded to grab her, and then she was on the phone, which I was trying to get the phone from, and which then there was a struggle, and then I pushed her to the ground to get the phone from her, and then I proceeded to take my pants off, and then I proceeded to remove her pants and underwear, and then from there I got up and I grabbed her and my arm was around her, and then I took her to the kitchen where I then tried to stuff her in the dishwasher, several attempts to stuff her in the dishwasher. And after that, there was a broom closet where I tried to stuff her in there, put her in the broom closet, several attempts to do that, and then from there was stairs leading to the basement, which I took her down to the basement, and I had put her on the floor, and I got on top of her, and I then proceeded to strike her with my fist several times, and then that was when the police came down, and then she had gotten up, and I was on my knees at that time, holding on to her, and that was when the police grabbed her from me, and then they proceeded to arrest me.
Thank you. At this time, I'm gonna stop right here. We have a victim that wants to make a statement. I'm gonna hand over to Heather, our liaison. And so just sit back and listen only at this time, okay?
Thank
Okay.
you, Jesse. So Jill, if you are on here, can you use the raise your hand feature and let me know? I see 2 attendees, but I don't see your name. So if you could use that feature, we're gonna give you a minute to find it, and I don't see any hands. So at this time, I don't think the victim is on here, but if they do jump on, we'll just circle back, okay? All right,
Sounds good.
thanks, Jesse.
All right, so we're gonna continue. So you stated that you told us your version of the story.
Oh,
What are your,
sorry, Jesse.
There we go.
We have a hand raise. Can I check it or?
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
sorry about that. Hi, I see it listed as Jody. Is this Jill?
Yes, it is Jill.
Awesome. Okay, you can turn your camera on or leave it off, and you can share your statement when you're ready. Please keep it directed towards the board. One second. I'm gonna promote you to panelist, okay, in case you want your camera on. There we go. Go ahead and accept that to be promoted to panelist.
Can you see me now?
Try again. I promoted you. Can you try to turn your camera on one more time? It might not have allowed it the first time. There you go. Thank you. Go ahead and share when you're ready, Jill.
Okay. I'm sorry if I start crying. This event has changed my family forever. It's not every day, but I will say it is every week between me, my father, Walt Hesling, and my daughter. It comes to mind often. We've had to deal with so many issues because of this one event. I don't know what to say. He hasn't even served a third of his time. When I heard him speak, he doesn't remember. He's just been coached. But we remember, and the trauma to my daughter is set in for the rest of her life. I personally do not believe he is ready. I do not believe he is ready. I thank you.
Thank you, Jill, for sharing that statement. I'm going to move you back to an attendee and you can continue to attend the rest of the interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Yep. Thank you, Jesse.
Hey, Ms. Jandro, after hearing that, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I'm ashamed and regretful. And I'll always live with that. And I can't change what happened. So I just have to live with it and make my peace with it. Otherwise, I'd be incapacitated every day by the suffering I feel for it. But so that's what I've been doing all these years, is just living with it. Because I can't change what happened.
So can you explain why you broke into the house? What was going through your mind at that time? What was the goal? I mean, do you remember why break into a place?
I mean, honestly, it's hard to explain exactly what my intent was that day, because I was obviously highly intoxicated and my mental state was deteriorated, and so all these things make it really hard to say my specific intent at the time. As being sober and mentally stable now, it's like the only thing I can say is I don't understand it myself. But being in that state of mind, like, I mean, I can't explain my intent that day. That's
Okay. So I guess my next question would be then, if the police had not arrived, where do you think this would have led to? Be honest.
honestly, I don't know, because I don't know what I was doing that day. So
And
That's
so
my
Go ahead.
honest.
with that being said, you've taken SOTP. I've looked at your evaluation, and one, what are some of the cognitive distortions that you have realized?
My preoccupation with my unusual sexual interests with pornography, and specifically domination pornography that I was viewing at the time. My isolating self, which is for my mental health, isolating myself from the world, and then abusing substances, and my lack of relationships, adult relationships, or any type of relationship connections, as in healthy relationships, which I believe all these risk factors, which, you know, when they stack upon each other, it leads to me being uncontrollable, and, you know, my learned sexual experiences throughout life, and coupled with the alcohol and the mental health and everything, at that time, that's what I believe how I became untroubled.
When do you think you realized that you had some kind of attraction to minors?
To say when I was a minor myself.
Okay. And so now that you've gone through SOTP and understanding some of the teachings that they present to you, how many other victims do you have?
I believe it was 18.
18. And now that you've done this stint of time incarcerated, what are your thoughts now?
My thoughts now are that the person that I was at 19, was a person that was lost without no goals. You know, and didn't have any problem solving skills or any discipline, or just a lack of care really for my surroundings at the time. And that person that I was then, I'm not that person now. Because being in prison has taught me, you get put in an environment like this, you can either let it swallow you up, and, you know, you could just be miserable, but that's not what I've done. I've had prison jobs and things in here that help me develop as a person. You know, attending psychology and my spirituality, and learning discipline from these outlets, and developing a healthy understanding of my surroundings, and the balance of myself being healthy with my surroundings. That the person that is sitting here today is, it's a more fully developed human, as you could say, as wherein back then I was just a shell of a person. That's how I see it.
So you said back then, now that you're thinking back, you had no goals. What are your goals now?
My goals now are to obtain and maintain, develop a life for myself, and to be a productive citizen in the world, which I had little experience of at 19, but I have that goal, and just wanting to build a life for myself. That's my main goal. Obviously, my primary goal is not to reoffend and to continue bettering myself, to continue with maintaining my mental health, wherever that comes from, spirituality or psychology or medications.
Perfect. Thank you. I have no more questions for you at this time. I'll pass to my colleagues. Meredith?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions for you. Good morning, Ms. Jandro. I guess my first question, Jesse did start to ask you a couple questions about what you learned in SOTP, and I want to follow up on that. So you had talked about how pornography is a risk factor for you. Are there any other risk factors or red flags that you were able to identify for yourself in treatment?
Substance abuse, as in alcohol, isolating myself, having crime supportive schemas, as in being in environments and around people who are involved in crime or are involved in abusing substances. Yeah, I believe that's the other two.
Okay. And then, what about your cognitive distortions at the time that you had that justified your crimes, like to yourself at that time? What cognitive distortions did you have?
Cognitive distortions at the time was my entitlement, and lack of care for obviously my surroundings, and viewing children as sexual objects was a cognitive distortion then, which I would say is the main cognitive distortion.
And how have you worked on addressing that cognitive distortion or any of them?
By using reinforcing adult relationships. That's how I've been dealing with that specific cognitive distortion.
And what does a healthy adult relationship look like to you?
Obviously, the person has to be of age and they have a mutual respect, mutual understanding, and to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't enable you to do the wrong things in life, but to enable you to grow and to do positive things.
And how do you plan to navigate adult relationships when you do leave, with having this crime in your past and being honest and upfront with other adults? How do you plan to navigate that?
I would say I have had practice in prison, obviously, because doing that a lot. But my plan is to be upfront with it, and if this person is willing to see past that, in a sense, to the person who I am, then obviously I can start to develop a friendship, or possibly something more if you find a person that is that gives consent and everything to develop a relationship in a as a friendship and stuff.
So one of the restrictions that you're going to have when you leave is a restriction on the internet, viewing pornography, accessing, electronic images of nudity. How are you going to be able to navigate that and cope with that restriction?
I mean, it's been a long time since I've had a phone, but as in practice in here with having a TV, a personal TV, and if things are on the TV that are inappropriate, I should say, for myself, I would change the channel or focus on something else, as in a hobby, or focus on my job, or the friendships that I have.
What hobbies do you have that help you to have positive outlets?
I write a lot. I play an instrument. I play sports or board games with friends I've developed in here. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a hobby, but my spirituality with the Native American community, and reading literature and practicing, learning.
Okay. Who do you have as a support system on the outside?
I have my biological brother, and I have a friend that started out as a pen pal in here, but developed into a real friendship. Williams, who I have constant communication with.
Okay. Do they live near where you're going to be rolling to?
My brother lives in Sioux City.
Okay. Are you able to be in contact with him now?
Yes, I call him on a weekly basis.
Okay. Thank you. Those are the only questions that I have for you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Meredith. James.
Hey, thank you, Jess. How you doing, Miss Jandro?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, you said prior to being your initial self, prior to 19 years of age and being incarcerated, to the present day, so being better, self-medicated, learning all the different things that, you know, that you have access to. How can you further share with us why you're better today than you were at that age where you committed this this crime?
I would say there's three main points to it, which is obviously being sober is the main point, and choosing to be sober. And then the second point is obviously I was not very spiritual at that time in my life. Since being in prison, I've learned a lot and developed a wanting, as you would say, for my spiritual heritage, and which I had lacked at that point in my life. And the third point is, which I had at 19, I had a diagnosis for gender dysphoria, but I did not have the know-how or the recommendations to start my transition at that time, which for me personally was left me in a constant state of depression, and with suicidal tendencies at that time in my life. And since getting on the medications and starting the transition in prison, as in living my life as difficult as it is in a male prison, which has really developed a hardened skin for it and a care for how I am seen, for being who I am in that sense. And as with that, I have enamored in me a sense of self that is like a self-love, I guess you could say, which I didn't have.
Say that. I'm sorry. I missed.
Which I didn't have when I was 19. The self-love.
Okay. Okay. When I hear that you speak to your brother every other week or each week, and then I hear, how often do you speak with your pen pal?
That's weekly also.
That's weekly also. And I hear that support. What other support are you looking to establish besides the spiritual, support for your, culture, Native Americans? What other support are you looking for?
The LGBT community is a big support. Obviously, develop a support from wherever job I'm gonna have with my coworkers, and therein could lie developing friendships within those friendships, and developing friendships with, as in like musical, as in a musical aspect of it, which being in prison, I've had the opportunity of being in a band and stuff like that, and writing music and playing instruments and stuff like that. That's an outlet that's a big outlet for me here in prison. So.
Okay. And when I hear you sharing, I don't see that you're opposed to any help and any assistance or working with, therapy, or working with all those individuals that can help make you better. What are your thoughts on your PO? if the potential is for you to be released? What are your thoughts to your PO or a PO?
Obviously, to establish a respect for my parole officers' decisions and understanding of what my parole officer is, I guess, mentoring me to do, I guess.
I throw that out there because not much was said on a PO. You had like other plans that potentially is in place from what you've been able to establish by being incarcerated. So hearing you discuss some of the possibilities of that working relationship, if trust is established, I'm hoping that is an investment that you also could potentially work with that can help you or would be willing to help you when you're going into those thoughts, of those distortions and things that you're still working on, if that makes sense.
Yes, I understand.
That concludes my question. Thank you.
Thank you, James. You have any follow-up? I have one last question for you. Is right now, currently, what is your biggest struggle?
My biggest problem right now is I guess my biggest problem would be to maintain my sobriety. Especially when something bad happens in my life, and that would cause me to spiral and become uncontrollable. Because life happens and things are out of my control, and that would be my biggest problem.
And that leads me to my next question. Do you have a sponsor, or have you indulged in AANA?
I would say I've attempted to, but I guess being a social pariah as I am for being transgender, it's been difficult to maintain certain aspects of that in certain groups.
You feel like that's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's not that I didn't want to attend these groups or Alcoholics Anonymous or any of those, but it was just, there was problems which I had to remove myself.
Can you describe one of those problems in just in general?
The ridicule for being transgender is the main one.
I appreciate your honesty. Thank you. I have no more questions, and I don't, unless my colleagues have any follow-up. This is the time, if you want the board to know anything or you have anything prepared, you have the floor.
I believe I've said all I can say. So.
Fair enough. So at this time, we're going to go into deliberation. Just sit back and listen. Once we come to a decision, I'll come back to you and explain, okay? All right,
Okay.
Thank you. Colleagues, who wants to go first?
I can, sorry. I was reading, I'm gonna support this recommendation for parole with a 10B to start at the Sioux City work release. We have a TDD of 2028 and 12 years served. SOTP has been completed. And this release would allow her to engage in SOTP maintenance classes in the community versus being done with SOTP and then just sitting in Newton with no follow-up on that treatment, with no backing up and reiterating those lessons and making sure that there's a safety plan in place in the community and making sure that there's plans to get set up with a sponsor with mental health, with substance abuse treatment. So as far as coding, I'd be looking at the no early discharge. So be remaining on parole until the initiation of the special sentence in 2028. And then the limited internet restriction, the no contact with minors. In the 40A, I'd be looking at the SOTP aftercare, substance abuse, mental health medication compliance, and the 50A.
Thank you, Meredith. Mr. Moses.
Yes, thank you. I was pretty pleased with the interview. From some of the information that Ms. Jandro shared, I do believe that there is some growth that took place from initially when she came in to the present date to date. I also hear challenges that she's looking at, as she prepares to transition out. Just hearing some of the things that concerns her, where she spoke to you in terms of being ridiculed for her position. But she seems engaged to that learning and wanting to be better. She doesn't appear to be opposed to wanting the initial help that she knows she's going to need. I thought she shares some growth in terms of understanding medication compliance and how that has helped her when she initially came in. She wasn't trying to hear it, or she wasn't trying to do it, or she wasn't interested in thinking that that kind of medication could be helpful for her. So her sharing that was, pretty instrumental. So I could share more, but with that being said, I too, like my colleague, is in agreement with DOC's recommendation for the PG, I believe D3, the codes that was mentioned with the 10B, the 20A, the 20B, the 30A, no contact minors, and then the 40A with SOTP aftercare and maintenance with substance abuse, mental health, and medication compliance, and along with the 50A.
Appreciate it. Ms. Jandro, before I give you my decision, I want you to understand and the forum to understand that this interview is just part of our investigation to look into this, to come up with a decision. We had the opportunity to not only see this interview and ask you the questions, but consider the recommendation by your counselor. We also looked at institutional records, risk assessments, criminal history, substance abuse history, treatment history, and your release plan. So that helped us compile our decision. So I too am going to be in agreement with release. Like when my colleague asked you how you're going to prepare yourself with, with pornography, whatever, and you said that even the simplicity of watching your TV, you feel that you are able to change the channel or do something that, got you away from indulging in that content. So I'm going to be in agreement with the DOC recommendation to parole you with a 10B to the work release. The 10B means that you will be at the work release. The other codes that you heard us talk about, was the 20A was a limited internet. The 20B is you're going to go to the term of your discharge date. The 30A is not to be around minors without permission from your PO. The 40A is a treatment code. We want you in the SOTB aftercare. Keep up with your mental health and your medication compliance, and also get a substance abuse evaluation. And the 50A is no alcohol, period. No liquor stores, no bars, no alcohol. Okay? Do you have any questions?
No,
Okay, that will conclude this interview. Thank you for your time.
thank you. Have a nice day.
And of course, they granted, Iowa granted. Are we really surprised? I mean, even listen to the words that they said. It's like, well, we've taken a lot of things into consideration. We've taken, your treatment and your risk of reoffending. And it's like, are you out of your mind? What treatment? Didn't even have it like AA because, oh no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that in the community. You really think that this person is going to be safe out in the community? Now we'll go through the information that Holly provided. Thank you very much. But let me just point out in the notes here that it was 55 years to be served. EOS is 2067. It's been 13 years. This sentencing in Iowa, it's a bunch of gimmicks. They try to trick us. They want to fool us. This person broke into a home. There was an 11-year-old girl. What they asked him, what do you think you would have done if the police didn't come? I don't know. Oh, okay. Let's take that. I'll tell you what he would have done. What do you think he would have done? This isn't funny. You can't give that as your answer and get paroled. She fought back for her life. She saved her life. This is what happened. By breaking down the door, it was at this location that an 11-year-old female juvenile was home alone from school as she was sick. He assaulted her, disrobed her, tried to place her in a dishwasher. Why? Then a broom closet. Then finally, he throws her down the stairs. And like a movie, like a Hollywood movie, when he's down there about to do the worst, the police show up because she called the police while fighting for her life. The young girl sustained numerous injuries, including a separated shoulder. It was at this address that law enforcement officials responded to the 911 emergency phone call, which only screaming was heard at the phone. Throughout the duration of the trial, he showed no expression of emotion, many times sitting in the chair with his hand holding up his head as if giving the impression that he was bored, kind of like how he looked today, ladies and gentlemen. While entering the courtroom, none of the jury members looked at the defendant, nor either of the attorneys. During the reading of the verdict, he continued to show no emotion. There was no emotion here today. There was nothing. I don't know why I tried to do it. I was using substances and marijuana and alcohol. Oh yeah, I'm ashamed and regretful, but I can't take it back. I mean, I have to live with it. I can't take it back. So what am I supposed to do? And then he doesn't even take the AA programs. They're just letting him out because I couldn't do it. I'm a pariah in here. And the board coddles him, says, sure, let's reward you. That makes sense. In Iowa, it is a problem. They give out sentences that make the public feel safe, where the DAs can flex their muscles and the judges can, sit there and tell but it's a joke. There is no truth in sentencing. And only now, covering these parole hearings, can we air this dirty laundry that I imagine the governor of Iowa, the people, they do not want. There are people that don't want us to know, and then there are people that just don't know and are pissed off. I read in the comment section, those local in Iowa, Make sure you write your local politicians. This is not okay. Then you have the coddling and the, forget, don't bother me with, Mandoo, you're misgendering her. Just don't. I know that women do not claim him. You don't read in the newspaper that a woman breaks into a house and disrobes an 11-year-old and attempts to sexually assault her. Tell me one time that you have ever seen that. It's insane. It's interesting. We have covered how many transgender hearings? A bunch, more than you know. The YouTube algorithm hides it when I cover it. Okay, so you probably haven't seen them. They get demonetized for whatever reason. There's always, I lose subscribers. I always get emails, and in the comment section, how dare you, Mandoo? And it's the funniest thing because every single one of the cases that we have covered, except for one, they were in for sex crimes. And the one that wasn't in for a sex crime was selling themselves on the street corner when a John came, and then they shot the John. But no, Mandoo, you're wrong. You're ignorant, right? And I just don't care. I just don't care. It's not my agenda. I couldn't care less. You can be my best friend and you can say you want to identify as whatever, and I couldn't care less. But the moment you break into a home and do that to an 11-year-old, you don't get to be called whatever you want anymore. No, we're not going down that train. It doesn't make any sense to. How do you want to put it in the data box? That it was a woman that did this? It's like you're seeing on the articles all day today. The woman tries to blow up Tesla dealership. I'm like, why are you all appeasing to this insanity? And again, I don't benefit from this. You know what? It would be a much more of a clickbait title for me to say that a woman broke into a home and tried to do that to an 11-year-old. I'd get on much more clicks if I said that. Maybe that's why Fox News and all these other whatever are doing that with this Tesla thing. It gets more clicks. Because it's just not the nature of crime. So it's interesting. Wow, I never heard of anything like this before. Let me click on it. But I'm just so done. You want to unsubscribe? Go unsubscribe. You want to put your head in the sand? I don't care. And this is not a political statement. I don't this or that. I don't care. This is about children. This is about safety of the community. I don't care what your political opinion is. I don't care about any of that. How you vote, that doesn't make a difference to me or anyone on this channel. This is not what we're about. I'm just going to call it out for what it is. And this is someone who has admitted to having 18 other victims. Think about that number. If there was one thing honestly said by him in this hearing, I think I think he was honest. There's sociopaths, they tend to be honest with certain things. And I'm not diagnosing. I'm just speculating on a situation like this. 18 additional victims. And now he's going to be safe to be in the community? Can't make it up. It's interesting. He said he wanted his name to be May. And he had an appeal. In the appeal, one of the judges was Judge May. I don't know. Thank you, Holly, for this, if there's anything about that. But he won this appeal. He won like 10 years. The state of Iowa gave him like 10 years off of his sentence. For some reason, they found, I don't know exactly, they don't say a lot of information in the appeal, but they found that the sexual assault was like redundant to the first-degree burglary charge. I think is a fancy word for home invasion. And maybe this attempted sexual assault makes for some reason, they felt that that was the same and they shouldn't be charged twice for it. I don't know. Crazy, more crazy stuff. Judges giving appeals for that. But it didn't make it. That's not why he got out early. It's just that the sentencing in Iowa, they give these really big sentencing, but on average, we've gone through articles about this. You only need to do like 20% of your time or something in Iowa. It's all a bunch of and then you can get good time and everything else. This is what do they call a runaway train, a speeding train going off the rails, right? We all can see it happening. We can see this. This is not going to turn out well for anybody. But I see that you were really good at when you were watching TV in jail and something, you changed the channel. That shows a lot of growth. It's like, are you kidding me? What? You know, how many other victims you have? He says 18. You just like, you would think that would shake the room. You'd think that, why is it that you broke into the house? I don't know. It's like, I'll tell you why you broke into that house. Let's just say, I don't know. And this wasn't the first offenses. This guy has a record of drinking. Before this, and remember, he was only 20 when he caught this charge. He has operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated. He has possession of paraphernalia. He has possession of alcohol. Remember, this is before he's 21 too. Interference of official acts. They have another operating a vehicle while intoxicated. And then finally, these charges. And they just say, sure, you don't need to do AA. The one thing. Can't make it up. But this salute goes to the survivor who fought back for her life. The system won't protect us, so we have to. And with that, I'll let you go.
I'm sorry if I start crying. This event has changed my family forever. It's not every day, but I will say it is every week between me, my father, Walt Hesselink, and my daughter. It comes to mind often. We've had to deal with so many issues because of this one event. I don't know what to say. He hasn't even served a third of his time. When I heard him speak, he doesn't remember. He's just been coached. But we remember, and the trauma to my daughter is set in for the rest of her life. I personally do not believe he is ready. I do not believe he is ready. I thank you.